Hey, how's it going guys? My name is Aylwood and today we're taking a look at Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, Bethesda's award-winning classic back from 2006, and to answer the ultimate question, as always, is it worth your time? And since the long-awaited Skyblivion mod is slowly approaching release date, I thought I'd better get an Oblivion review out of the way ready. So, Oblivion is a single-player, fantasy, action-adventure, open-world RPG. You take on the role of an unknowing prisoner, charged with assisting the royal family prevent an impending cataclysm. You'll be taking on a variety of powerful hostiles, exploring the impressively huge open-world maps, all while utilising a vast range of skills, spells, and armaments along the way. So aesthetically, considering Oblivion was released more than 15 years ago, the visuals have held up very well on PC in my opinion. And that's without the use of any kind of third-party fixes or mods which correct the few graphical and efficiency issues throughout the game. Unless of course you want to play on a PS3 at 30 FPS and reduced visual quality, something I wouldn't recommend in the year 2021. Colours used are surprisingly deep yet simple throughout, giving the game a contrasting mix of pale and vibrant shades that give towns and cities a realistic faded touch, yet high fantasy areas and foliage a rich, bold presence that gets even further enhanced by the game's wholesome lighting. Speaking of lighting effects, most of them, even on max settings, are clearly aged, minimal, and often lacking or missing altogether. Many effects like shadow, weather, and ambient are very lackluster for today's standard, but were very impressive for a fully open world game back in the day. By far my favourite visual assets though, I have to say, are the particle and incredibly iconic glow effects. Sunsets, torches, candles, and even the plains of Oblivion have a wonderfully simple, overpowering glow that can be so strong at times it completely washes over textures with hues of red, orange, and yellow, giving the overworld an incredible touch of life, as well as interiors a snug, cozy feel that even after 800 hours of game time, I still can't help but love. Textures and detail are definitely up to standard on max settings. Carpets, stone, wood, and metal are all very well detailed and realistic at a glance, but expect an obvious quality reduction if you're playing on lower settings or if your face is less than 6 feet away from a wall. The lack of object shadows doesn't help the situation either, but come on, this is an old game after all. The UI is decent, a bit on the small side of course, but after years of playing, I'm completely used to it by now. I do remember hating the extremely small resource bars and compass back at release however, both of which were fixed in Skyrim. Need I say more? Other screens though, like the various menus, inventory, and map, are definitely not the most user-friendly around, but charming and iconic nonetheless. Level layouts are very impressive considering the sheer size of the game. Town and city buildings have been strategically placed, the overworld has been created with both love and care, and the indoor areas like caves and dungeons are simple, minimal, and easy to navigate. I really miss the simple, cozy interior designs of early open-world RPGs, Oblivion being a prime example of this minimal style. Character and enemy designs were quite impressive at release, but are by far the most age assets of the game to date. Beast and creature models are quite unique considering their more custom animations, but humanoid models share the exact same animations for most things, including walking, running, and attacking, except of course with very minor differences. Facial animations are dated, casting spells all look the same, and general movements don't seem to take into consideration faster speeds or quick adjustments. How humanoid NPCs interact with the player, their spammed attacks in combat, and their unrealistically fast movement speeds at higher levels are so unbalanced they're pretty much a meme at this point, especially when they interact with each other. Pure gold. But it's this crude, unbalanced silliness that makes Oblivion what it is today, and a big part of why so many people continue to love the title, myself included. Clearly a dated visual standard that due to its charm will continue to be enjoyed by both new and returning players alike. The OSTs of Oblivion, let's be honest, are fucking brilliant. By far the best soundtracks in the entire Elder Scrolls series in my opinion, especially when compared to their more recent titles. Very rare do you find traditional, orchestrated tracks this good in gaming, but Oblivion shits on the competition no problem at all. High fantasy, bright, serene tracks combined with so much emotion, gentle character and warmth, it's incredible. Most OSTs consist of low tempo, drawn out, deep background sounds and a gentle, distinct main melody that come together flawlessly and really complement the landscapes of Cyrodiil well. The underground exploration tracks clearly have a more ominous, eerie edge to them while delving through the game's many dungeons and caves, but the combat tracks definitely amp up the intensity with faster tempos, occasional vocals and various added drums and trumpets, all of which come together with such consistency and quality I could easily listen to the entire soundtrack in one sitting, especially while bathing. Not the whole playlist maybe, but definitely a few favourites. What's even more surprising is the 1 hour worth of actual soundtracks compared to the average player's 50-hour playtime. Expect many of the game's tracks to play on repeat, but don't worry, they're so incredibly good you actually enjoy it. Everything else sound related, like the various interactions, attack and spell sounds are all pretty good, a little on the mild side in terms of intensity, but decent nonetheless. The voice acting can be pretty funny at times though, not so much from the likes of Patrick Stewart or Sean Bean, but general NPC dialogue can be cheesy, funny and downright stupid. There are even Oblivion dialogue memes floating around YouTube that directly take the piss out of this dialogue style, some of which are very good. You're more than welcome to look them up. Overall though, an incredibly impressive soundtrack quality that truly captures the heart and soul of this luscious land. Now for the gameplay. So Oblivion doesn't technically have a selection of difficulties to choose from before you play. It does however have a difficulty slider bar you can increase or decrease at any time in your settings, which affects your damage dealt and taken, but can be considerably punishing at higher levels. There are technically no benefits for playing on harder difficulty, it's more for bragging rights really, but if you do want to watch my hardest difficulty Oblivion stream highlights, you are more than welcome to. The lore of the game is pretty straightforward to be honest, but as mentioned, you take on the role of a random convicted citizen imprisoned for a crime that never really gets explained. Assassins are trying to kill the Emperor of Cyrodiil, and the cell you're in contains a secret underground route that the Emperor uses to escape. Granted an Emperor's pardon, you join the Emperor and his guards in their escape of the city where you're powerless to stop his assassination. You then decide to take up the task of finding the Emperor's lost son, enabling him to equip the royal family's dragon amulet in order to light the dragon fires of Cyrodiil and shut the gates of Oblivion that are popping up around the kingdom. But that's pretty much the base storyline anyway. When you first start the game, you're shown a pretty informative intro cutscene voiced by good old Patrick Stewart, which gives you a to-the-point introduction to the game's story. You're then brought to the iconic Elder Scrolls character creation screen where you select your gender, facial shape, skin color, hairstyle and most importantly, class. Pay attention to the description box before choosing your favorite, since each race has its own unique bonuses and abilities. Once you're done creating your perfect character like mine, you're immediately brought to your lovely cell room, you have a few words with your neighbour opposite, then take control of your character and play. If you're familiar with other first-person games, which I'm sure you are, you won't have any issues with this game's controls. You have your general movement controls as you'd expect, with the addition of attacking, casting spells, sneaking, blocking and grabbing. Your standard attack changes depending on your equipped item, but do include bows, maces, swords and bare hands. Casting spells have their own designated button in Oblivion regardless of what weapon you have equipped. Sneaking is of course to remain hidden as you move and allows for considerably strong sneak attacks if you hit the enemies while undetected. Blocking is used to reduce incoming damage taken, can cause enemies to recoil, and if you hold block and press the interact button while targeting NPCs, you can offer a yield which often ceases their attacks, and grabbing is more for fun and allows you to move objects and dead NPCs around without adding the former to your inventory, a feature heavily advertised before the game's release. The base concept of the game is exactly as you would expect from an open world RPG. You explore the overworld, pillage dungeons, sack tombs, raid caves, close Oblivion gates, steal from residents, complete quests, summon monsters, recruit companions, progress through guilds, fast travel to previously visited locations, advance the plot, and much more. And that's not including all the official DLC you get with the Game of the Year edition on Steam. So I think it's safe to say a lot of stuff to do. What makes Oblivion unique, however, is its skill milestone and level up system, its incredible spell making mechanics, equipment enchanting feature, and insane endgame. By the time you leave your cell and sewers, you would have selected your birth sign and class, both of which provide various skills and passives depending on what you chose. But the major skills are the most important for future character development. As you level up these major skills, you'll start to notice a small sun icon at the bottom of the screen. Sleeping in any bed when this icon is displayed allows you to actually level up your character. You can increase your attributes, the quality of rewards you get from dungeons and quests, and the strength of enemies. Skills also grant exclusive passives every 25 levels. These include bows being able to zoom in at level 50, swords being able to knock down enemies at level 75, or block having a chance to disarm your target at level 100. The spell making and equipment enchanting mechanics are amazing and arguably the best feature of Oblivion. Practically all skills in game, once taught via vendors or books, allow you to create some incredible spells and item enchants provided you have the required gold, skill level, or soul gem. For example, a common spell I like to make is plus 100 speed and athletics for 30 seconds, which dramatically increases your movement speed, or plus 100 marksman, plus 50 sneak and detect life for sneaking around high level dungeons. Your options are as limitless as your imagination, but keep in mind the insane mana cost of very powerful spells. These mechanics combined with the insane gear you find above level 30 make endgame insane. You can reflect 100% of melee damage taken back to the attacker, absorb all offensive spells, jump super high, or deal so much magical damage that enemies actually ragdoll on the floor out of sheer disbelief. Combat though can be very unbalanced at times, not so much below level 20 or on a lower difficulty, but definitely at the higher levels. Enemies eventually have extremely fast movement speeds, take a crazy amount of damage to kill, and also benefit from skill passives, meaning they can disarm you, knock you down, and paralyze you just from physical damage alone. Most of the time they tend to lock on, run directly towards you, and spam attacks. Enemy spellcasters and archers can easily catch you off guard at any level, so be sure to save regularly, recruit a companion, or level up your conjuration skill to summon monsters. Two-handed weapons are pretty much out of the question due to their poor damage increases compared to one-handers, and the fact that blocking with a shield is just too good in Oblivion. At 75 plus block, you will constantly stagger targets, reduce the damage you take, and possibly disarm them. Marksman is also very good in combination with a high sneak level if you enjoy distant assassinations. The only problem is no headshot bonuses in Oblivion, sadly. There are so many guides, tips and tricks online to help you get to this level of endgame, increase your skills and attributes quickly, or simply locate very powerful artifacts, all of which really add to that raw, immersive gaming experience. So for the ultimate question, is it worth your time? Oblivion, simply put, is one of the greatest single-player ARPGs in gaming history. It defines the meaning of the word freedom, maintains an excellent ratio of challenge to accomplishment, and oozes with raw, creative fun. Truly an undisputed, timeless RPG classic. I'm going to give this game a 5-star or 96 out of 100. Not that I need to elaborate on this decision, but for those curious, the environments and lighting effects I love, especially at sunset and nighttime. I love the NPC interactions between themselves and the player. I love the sneaky mechanic exploits like draining speed, commanding humanoids, and not turning in escort quests. I love the skill and attribute system, the insanely unbalanced difficulty slider, the incredible endgame potential, the lovingly fun and creative quests, the boundless spell making system, funny ragdoll physics, the min-max potential if you really want to play efficiently, the role-playing combat immersion when choosing to play warrior, rogue or mage-like roles, and let us not forget the very generous average playtime of 20 to 100 hours. Now that's value for money. Due to the game being over 15 years old, you do unfortunately get frame rate drops during environmental rendering, NPCs loading voice clips and a few other places. The shadow effects can play up a bit at times, and you may notice NPC schedules breaking every now and again. Fortunately, there is a third-party mod you can get which practically fixes all of these issues. In fact, the Oblivion modding community is still going strong even today. There are pages and pages of mods you can get online for custom gear and quests to character models to fully revamped graphics. For the sake of this review, however, all footage was captured without the use of any kind of mod. But in all honesty, you don't need any kind of mod to enjoy this classic. Oblivion is far from a perfect title, but it's these unbalances, glitches, exploits, humorous and sometimes cheesy rough edges that make it the iconic title that it is today, as well as an undisputed must-play RPG in my book. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more games I'll be reviewing in future. As mentioned, I shall indeed be making a Skyblivion review once it's released, so if you enjoyed this Oblivion review, keep an eye out for my Skyblivion video in future. If you don't know what Skyblivion is and you'd like to learn more, I've also linked a video in the description for those curious. But as always, all the best guys, take care.